Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is John Baker, an IT Pro Evangelist with Microsoft Corporation. As you can see on the slide, my blog is blogs.technet.com/John Baker. And today we're going to be starting part one of a 5-part series on the User State Migration Tool, or the USMT. We're actually going to be looking at USMT version 4.0. And the title of the series is Automatically Migrating User Settings During a Windows 7 Upgrade. So today is part one of 5, and we're going to take a overview of the User State Migration Tool. The User State Migration Tool 4.0 series that we're doing here is split up into 5 parts. Part 1 is the overview of the User State Migration Tool itself. Part 2 is we'll take a look at what's new in the USMT 4.0. Part 3 is the USMT scenarios. Part 4 is the hard link migration. And then finally on Part 5, we'll take a look at using the USMT for doing offline user state capture. So today is part 1 of 5, and here we'll be looking at the overview of the User State Migration Tool. So the User State Migration Tool provides the following benefits for any business that's wanting to deploy Windows operating systems. 1, it safely migrates user accounts, operating system, and application settings. It lowers the cost of deploying Windows because it preserves the user state. It reduces the end user downtime required because what happens is now the end user gets their previous account and their settings, application settings and operating system settings. Those are preserved in that user state, so it reduces their end time because they don't have to waste time customizing their desktops or finding files. All of them should already be there. Reduces help desk calls, again, goes back to the fact that they've got everything there, so they shouldn't need any help. And then finally, it increases their user satisfaction with that migration experience because the migration experience basically gives them turnkey. They moved off of their old machine, they log on to their new machine, their desktop background is the same, they have their icons on the desktop, they have their access to their data from their previous machine, so they have a smooth, seamless migration experience. There are some limitations. So the USMT is intended for administrators who are going to be performing large-scale automated deployments. However, if you're going to be if you have any kind of situation where the migration needs some end-user interaction, or the migration needs customization on a machine-by-machine basis, then the USMT might not work for you, or it's probably not going to work for you. Also, the USMT is really aimed at large-scale automated deployments. So if you're just doing a few computers, a handful, 6, 10, 12, whatever it might be, you can use another tool called the Windows Easy Transfer tool. And the Windows Easy Transfer tool basically does the same function as the USMT, but it's a much more manual process, and it's in a much smaller environment rather than a large-scale automated deployment. So here you can see a table with the User State Migration Tool requirements. So if you look at the table, there's 3 columns. Obviously, the first column is the operating systems. The second column, or the middle column, is the scan state or the source. So we do a scan state from a source computer, and you can see all of the operating systems there can be scanned. So XP Professional, SP2, and SP3, Windows XP Professional 64-bit, obviously Windows Vista, 64 and 32-bit, and obviously 32 and 64-bit versions of Windows 7. All of those can be scanned or source computers. But if you look at the load state or the destination computer, with the USMT 4.0, the only destination computers you can have are 32 and 64-bit versions of Vista and Windows 7. XP, SP2 or 3, and XP 64-bit edition cannot be a destination computer. A couple of other notes at the bottom of the slide. You can migrate a 32-bit operating system to a 64-bit operating system. However, you can't do it the other way around. So going from 64-bit, you can't do a scan and then load state from a 64-bit to a 32-bit operating system. Also, the USMT 4.0 does not support any of the Windows Server operating systems such as Windows 2000 or any of the starter editions of Windows XP or Windows Vista or Windows 7. And in addition, it needs to be run in administrator mode. The User State Migration tool is actually part of the Windows AIK, and the AIK is the Automated Installation Kit. The latest version of the Windows AIK is version 2.0, which is the Windows AIK for Windows 7. And within that toolkit, the USMT is version 4.0. And so the USMT actually breaks down into several components. You can see them up here. As you can see from the previous slide, we have two executables, scanstate executable or scanstate.exe and loadstate.exe. Those two executables are used to obviously scan. When you scan the computer you migrate them from to get the data that you want to migrate. And then load state is used to actually load that data back into the new operating system that you've installed. And included with the USMT are these three XML files. The migapp, migdocs, and miguser. So what migapp.xml is it contains the rules that are necessary to migrate your application settings. And there's actually unlimited, and if you go online, you can find the list of applications that are already built into that it can migrate settings on. And it's about a list of maybe 40 or 50 applications. The migdocs.xml, this has rules that utilize the MIG-XML helper.generate doc patterns helper function that can be used to automatically find user documents on a computer without the need to author extensive custom migration.xml files. And then the miguser.xml, that actually contains the rules to migrate user profiles and user data. So the miguser.xml actually gathers everything in the user's profile, and then it does a file extension based search on most of the system for other user data. So if that data doesn't match either of these criteria, the data is not migrated. And for the most part, the miguser.xml describes a core migration. So a couple of things to note here. The following data that does not migrate with the miguser.xml. So any files that are outside the user profile that don't match one of the file extensions that are contained within the miguser.xml file will not be migrated. And also files outside the user profile or folders outside the user profile will not have their ACLs migrated with the miguser.xml file. And finally, we have the USMT utils.exe, and that's a utility executable that we use within the USMT. I'll use that later on in one of my demonstrations when I do a hard link migration. That utility enables us to delete the hard link migration store, which is actually locked, and the utility will override that and allow us to delete the store. So we'll talk about that later on when we talk about hard link migration. So as I previously mentioned, there's two user state migration options. If you're in a small environment, probably the Windows Easy Transfer tool is the one you want to use. And this is a very simple tool, but it's a manual tool, and it can transfer data between two computers. And you have some variety of options here. You can either transfer it via a cable, so there's an easy transfer cable. So if you have the new computer and the old computer, you can hook them up together and do a live transfer over the cable. Or you can actually create a migration file and put it onto a USB drive or onto a server share in a similar fashion to what you do with the USMT. So those are your two options with the Easy Transfer if you're in a much smaller environment. If you're in a large environment, obviously User State Migration tool is the tool to use because you're going to be able to automate for that large-scale environment. Again, this is automating to transfer data between two computers. So from your old XP computer to your new Windows 7 computer, or with a new feature that's in the User State Migration tool, and I'll be talking about that in part 4, which is the Hard Link Migration tool. You can actually have the data, if you're upgrading a machine, so it's the same machine, so you've got XP on it right now, or Vista, and you're upgrading it to Windows 7, and you're going to use the same physical machine, you can do a Hard Link Migration, and that basically locks the files on the hard drive, wipes out the old operating system and installs a new operating system, and then you can unlock the files. I'll talk in much more detail in part 5 of this series. We can also do some customization using the document finder feature in USMT. We can do a customized include and excludes of different types of user data. For example, if you don't want the user to migrate any of their MP3 files, we can do an exclude on .mp3 extensions, and that will not migrate those MP3 files into the user's migration file, and therefore those MP3 files won't be available when that migration file is brought back into the new Windows 7 operating system. Another new thing with the User State Migration tool is the ability to migrate user data not only in an online situation but also in an offline situation. So in the offline situation we have a couple of choices. One is that you can do it on the Windows old directory. So if you've installed Windows 7 and you have a Windows old directory with the old operating system that was running on that machine before, we can now use the USMT to go and scan that Windows old directory and get the user's data profile off of that Windows old directory. The other way we can do it offline is if that drive is not bootable, we can actually do a boot up with WinPE with the USMT, and then we can scan a non-bootable drive and do it offline in that fashion. So we don't have to have the drive booted up in order to scan the drive. Okay, so let's do a demonstration here. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use the Windows Easy Transfer tool to perform a migration. So here's my Windows XP machine. Let me just show you. I'm on XP. I'm logged on as Don Hall. And you can see on my desktop for this demonstration, I've put a couple of shortcuts to files in my documents so that we can see what happens when we migrate it over. So I've got a shortcut to a Word document here and a Word document there. I've got a shortcut to a PowerPoint document and a PowerPoint document there, and then a shortcut with this one here, number 31, to my pictures. So let me go in and take a look at these files. So under my documents, here's my 2 PowerPoints that are shortcutted on the desktop, and here are my 2 Word documents. And if I go into my pictures, I have 7 pictures there. And basically what I've done here is I've just put a smattering of files that I want to transfer over, because I want the demonstration to go quick. I don't want to do a demonstration where I'm migrating 60 or 70 gigabytes of data. With the Windows Easy Transfer tool, this is downloadable. We have to download it and install it on Windows XP. In actual fact, we have to do that for Windows Vista as well, as the Windows Easy Transfer tool that comes built into Windows Vista is not as new as the one for Windows 7. So we need to download it for Vista and for Windows XP. So I've already downloaded and installed, and as you can see up here, I've put a shortcut, but let me show you where it would be if I just go for the installation. I go to All Programs, and it's right here. So I'll click on the Easy Transfer tool. It brings up the wizard. And you can see here it talks about welcome to the Easy Transfer tool. It says we're going from old computer to new computer. What's going to transfer? We're going to transfer user accounts, folders and files, program settings, internet settings and favorites, email settings, contacts and messages. So let me click next. And then we have 3 choices. We can do it with an easy transfer cable. So if we have the old computer and the new computer sitting beside each other, we can actually connect them with an easy transfer cable and then just do the transfer over that cable. In a similar fashion, we can also do it in the second choice here by doing it over a network connection. So if my old computer and my new computer are both on the same network, I can transfer it over the wire. So I can do a migration over the wire. In my case, though, for this demonstration, I'm going to choose this third option. And this third option gives me a choice of putting it to CD, to DVD, or to removable media. So I can put it to a USB flash drive, an external hard disk, or a writable CD or DVD. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see here I'm in a virtual environment. I don't have a writable CD available, and also don't have access to a USB flash drive. So the only choice I have here is an external hard disk or a network location. So in my case, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to a network location. I've already created a share on my DC, so I'm going to connect to that. So it's Seattle, DC, public, and then it's under Don Hall. And then I'm going to call this file migrate. Now here you should really put a password if you want to make this secure, because especially if you're putting everyone's files in the same share, you don't want everyone having access to other people's migration files. So in this case here, I could put a password. Because this is for demo purposes, I don't need a password because I'm the only one accessing this demo environment. So I'll click next. Now here you see you have several choices of what do you want to transfer. You can transfer all user accounts, files and settings. That's recommended. That will take, so all the users in this machine, local users and domain users, their accounts, their files and their settings will be transferred. In this case, for my demo purposes, I could in fact just transfer my user account, files and settings, or I can go in here and do advanced options. What I'm going to do here is just use my user account, files and settings. So I click next, and this will make it go quicker because there's less data to transfer. So you can see here you can review all the files and settings that you've chosen to transfer. So you can see I've got application settings for Office 2007, for Windows Media Player, for Windows Movie Maker, and then if I come down here, I've got my documents, my music, and my pictures. If I want to customize, say I don't want to have that data actually transferred, and you can see it's not very much, it's about 75 megabytes in my case. I can come in here and I can drill down and say, okay, I don't want to transfer my music, and let's go, maybe I don't want to transfer Movie Maker's settings. So I can come in and choose what I want to transfer. You notice I can also come in and add folders So if I have other folders that didn't get that aren't in there by default, I could add those to be transferred at the same time, as well as add in files. So I'll click next now. And now what happens, it will transfer the files and settings over to that store. So once this is finished, give it a few seconds. Okay, so let's switch from my XP machine and we're going to move over to my Windows 7 machine. So give me a second here and I'll bring up my Windows 7 machine. Here we are. You can see here I've got nothing on my desktop. This is a brand new installation of Windows 7. You can see I'm logged on as Don Hall. So let me go into my documents. You'll see there's nothing in my documents right now. Also, if I go to my pictures, you'll see there's nothing in my pictures. So this is a brand new installation, absolutely nothing in here. So what we need to do is we need to run the Windows Easy Transfer tool. So let me go. In Windows 7, this is already built in, so we don't need to do a download for it like we do with Windows XP and Windows Vista. So where is it stored? If I go to All Programs, Accessories, System Tools, and there it is, Windows Easy Transfer. So let me run that. I'll double click, brings it up. Slightly different interface, but it's basically the same tools we were running on the XP machine. Welcome to the Windows Easy Transfer. Tells me the kind of data and the files that we're going to transfer and gives me some tips. So let me click next. And here we have the same as before. We have the easy transfer cable choice, we have the network choice, and obviously in my case the external hard disk or flash drive. And so in my case it's an external hard disk because it's on a server share. So I'll click next there. Slight difference here. Now we've got to tell it that this is my new computer rather than my old computer. In the case of XP, you had no choice. In XP, it could only be the old computer. It could not be the new computer. That's why we didn't have this choice come up. Whereas Windows 7 and Windows Vista, we would see you'd have to choose whether it's my new computer or my old. Obviously, in my case, this is my new computer. And then it comes up and says Easy Transfer, has Windows Easy Transfer already saved your files from your old computer to an external hard disk or flash drive? Yes, it has. So I'm going to say yes here, and you can see here I then have to go to the drive. So in this case, I want to connect to my Seattle DC, under Public, under Don Hall, and then you can see there's my migrate file. So I'll click on that. There it is, migrate.mig, which is the file that I just created. I'll open that up. And there you can see, remember I only chose to migrate my single user to make the demo go a bit quicker. So here you can see I've got Woodgrove Bank, Don Hall. So I'll transfer. So I'll click transfer. Now if there had been multiple users there, I could have deselected users if I didn't want them to come in. In this case I only have the single user, but if there had been say Don and Mary and Steve, and I didn't want Mary and Steve to be users on this machine, or to have their data brought into this machine, I could have just unchecked the box. Even though it was in the migration store, I don't have to pull it in. So there you can see, now I've got my background picture that I had before. And once this finishes, I should be able to see my, there they go. Now you can see it's finished. You can see I've got my, on my desktop, I have the shortcuts that I had before. I can see what was transferred, and this gives me a report. So I can see here I got one user account transferred. That was me, Don Hall. Okay. I got 38 documents. I can get the details of the specific documents that have been transferred. So it wasn't just those pictures, but it was also some INI files and some other shortcuts. I could have saved that report and printed it out. You can see the program settings. Here's the program settings that were transferred: Microsoft List Smart Tags, Office PowerPoint 2007, Office Word 2007, Microsoft Place Smart Tags, Office 2007, Common Settings, and Windows Media Player. Remember, I deselected the Live, I think it was Live Writer. And then we can see it doesn't have a listing for my system settings that were transferred. So if I click out of this and click Close, I'm going to restart later. You can see here, there's the two shortcuts for the Word documents, the two shortcuts for my PowerPoints, and then the shortcut for the picture. You notice the icons are a little bit richer than they were in XP. So let me also go in and show you in my documents. So if I go into my documents, there you can see those 2 Word documents and 2 PowerPoints. And then if I go to my pictures, you should see my 7 pictures. There they are. Okay. Great. So we're done. And here in my call to action and resources slide, at the top I have my online presence. So I've got a blog, blogs.technet.com/John Baker. I also have a landing page for deployment essentials on the microsoft.com/events/series/deploymentessentials.aspx. And that's where I have my screencast videos hosted. And then in the middle of that slide, you'll see the Windows Automated Installation Kit, or Wake, for Windows 7, which is the latest version of the Wake. And I've put a bit.ly link up there for it, which is bit.ly/ lowercase fp, uppercase n, 90 lowercase z. So that will get you to the Wake for Windows 7. And then there's also a Windows 7 walkthrough of the user state migration tool. And again, I put a bit.ly link up there, and it's bit.ly/lowercase fcz, uppercase I, lowercase x, 6. And I want to thank you for joining me in part 1 of this 5-part series. Up next is part 2, which is what's new in the user state migration tool. So again, thank you for joining me, and see you in part 2.